Let's get back to some stocks to watch for your portfolio, some trends. Mish is with us, Chief Strategist, MarketGauge.com. You have a lot of ideas and a lot of things you're going to tell us about. First, let's just start with, these major averages that have been bumping up against records. Are we going to see more records?
Well, what's happening right now is, and it was pretty obvious that things were getting oversaturated and overbought in the tech space and that we could see a correction in the big stocks like NVIDIA, for example, which has been trading more like a meme stock. But I still very much have my eyes on what happens in some of the other sectors. I think that's going to really tell the story. And what's fascinating is I just did my whole report for the weekend. And if you're looking at the small caps or retail or are really what's capturing my eye right now, even though they're down, and certainly the ratio between small caps and growth has gotten to extremes, they're holding critical support. So I think next week, as we're ending the month, particularly going into July and earnings season, and of course with techs going to continue to be strong, even if it takes a bit of a breath of air, the real key of whether or not we're heading more towards stagflation, we're going straight into a recession, or whether we're just going to kind of get that soft landing that the Fed has still been talking about, even if they haven't done very much. So that's what I'm watching, is if they hold these key levels that we've seen this week in those four areas, particularly regional banks, by the way, which might be the weakest of the four, then I think we'll start to see money piling into some of these areas that have been well underperforming.
You know, as I see all the things here, and you talk about it being difficult to call a top, do we need to call a top? I mean, if you think the markets have a bullish move, why bother? If somebody trying to call a top in NVIDIA, in the last year, forget it.
I mean, how's that working out?
Right? I mean, yeah, it's one thing to call a market bottom and say this is when you should buy. Calling a top and saying when it's to sell, does it feel like it's the right time now, the next few months, to say it's a top, time to sell?
No, that's exactly my point. Perhaps if we see those areas, like I said, regional banks, small caps, retail, transportation that have underperformed, if they start to weaken further, then I would be bolder to say perhaps a top is in. And of course, a top only would mean some kind of a bigger correction. But if they hold up, then there's no way a top is in, and we could just see rotation. And that's another feature of the market, that when people say top or bottom, I think they may be a little bit myopic in that may be a top and bottom in certain areas, but there's always opportunities emerging in others. And that's why this makes the market so much fun, because you got to go where the money's going.
All right, let's go over some themes you're watching. I mean, when it comes to tech, what kind of names do you like and why?
Well, when it comes to tech, we've been pretty much long because of our quant models, a lot of the big names. And then we added in June Micron, and Qualcomm was added in May. But, all of those are doing great momentum-wise, and obviously corrections will happen here and there, and we've taken profits, so we don't necessarily have full positions on, although we are still in some of the leveraged ETFs for tech, like, for example, ROM. But I'm really, really keen right now, Nicole, on what is happening in terms of the energy or the electricity demand that's going to increase as a result of these data centers and the big computers and AI. So that's my eyes right now. If we're going to continue to grow in tech, we have to figure, where is this power going to come from? We know clean energy is a part of it, but electricity, even in clean energy, is necessary because you can't use a solar to plug in an appliance. You still have to use an AC currency, right? So I'm watching, the natural gas and the uranium and the coal and silver, which is a conductivity measure, and copper, which is where all the wiring comes in. They're saying that the demand for electricity will go from about 2-3% in the AI space to about 19% in 2028. So if that's the case, these underperforming raw materials that is essential to keep all of this going, to me, seems to be the most fascinating area to be investing in right now.
Interesting, as I see commodity and tech, and you have these 8 ETFs here, and to your point, tech will drive commodities and energy and power and all these kinds of things. You have utilities in here, uranium. Which of these names, let's say, which one or two is the best bet in your mind? Because there's 8 ETFs. It's a lot to sort of say. I mean, can you narrow it down?
Yeah, well, I think silver probably for me is at the top of my list. We've been in silver all year. Silver, of course, it seems like on Fridays, the metals really like to sell off, and that's what we're seeing a little bit here in the gold and the silver. But $29, I think, is a good area to keep an eye on. I would even give it to $28.50. So that would be one. I think probably one of the more frustrating trades is copper, because you've got a duality to it, but I would keep my eye on it. Copper's been holding above $4. It's trading at around $4.60. It got up to about $4.70 yesterday. If it can get through 5, then I think between silver and copper, you have 2 good areas to keep your eye on. Some people are saying copper is the new gold. I don't know about that, but it certainly looks like it's come out of a major base.
Let's just quickly touch on crypto. A lot of folks, we get a lot of excitement pertaining to crypto. People look for getting back to the 75,000, 100,000. In fact, I saw a 200,000 call for Bitcoin for a year from now or so. That being said, do you think that one candidate, I mean, it's not like we're going to say Republican or Democrat. It's just, does one candidate, it's not that we're leaning towards it, but seem better for crypto traders? If they were interested in crypto, what do they need to know?
Well, in terms of the candidates, right. I mean, Trump has, in 2021, he called it a scam. And now here in 2024, he is saying that he would like to dominate particularly the mining space in crypto, and he likes Bitcoin. With Biden, of course, we're talking more about the digital currency from central banks, which is not something that the crypto space wants. So I don't know if I would necessarily get too involved with what candidates say and more look at what's happening in the space. And to me, the most fascinating story that has come out is MicroStrategy just bought like $80 million more worth of Bitcoin on this dip. So they're pretty much very committed to the idea of its future. And I feel the same way. I mean, we're in a numbers game right now. It's trading between, let's say, 63 and 66,000, peaks its head up and comes right back down in terms of Bitcoin. But keep your eye on MicroStrategy. And in terms of the crypto space, with all the problems it has with regulation, I'm watching Ripple very carefully, not because I necessarily think that that's the next great investment, but because the SEC has been really down on that, and that has not been settled yet. And if that gets settled, I think that would be probably a catalyst to break open the whole entire cryptocurrency space, and particularly Bitcoin.
Yeah. Mish Schneider, thank you so much. MarketGauge.com. We always love that you're able to be on. You take the time to find them and all different groups here, so thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicole.